So here we are, first lesson, and playing Come On In My Kitchen in D. You could do the same thing in Open G, for what it's worth, if you play an actual version, and the bass notes would just move to the 5th string. Cool, so like we're saying, we're going to be literally parallel to the frets, muting behind the slide, so one thing I talked about was like the putting 4 fingers over 4 frets on the bass string to get yourself into classical position. A lot of the problems with are just having one's thumb slightly up higher than natural, which is where we play so much stuff and fretted in that position. So yeah, nice uncomfortable position I'd use when you do a minor chord this way to as a correlate. And that's when we are in this thumb position, is I need to be out in front of the instrument or I'm doing stuff with reaching. That's impossible to do in that position. Awesome. So hey, we're gonna do a whole bunch of 10 to 12 stuff. Like it says down at the bottom of the page, we're generally thinking about a lot of open 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret stuff, and that's 4, 4, 5. And then 10 to 12, we always stuff is 10th fret, 12th fret. And then we're going to start up there. So we're on thumb resting on the 6th string, and that's when you're going to want to forget. It seems like intuitively bunching your whole hand up is the thing to do. And I've just been teaching you the licks, and the bass notes in between are just kind of to make it sound musical rather than just pause. We're going to just be thumb, so it'll actually be there. But yeah, that's your starting position. And the more you can make yourself in the first hour of practicing, actually do Sapin and Nick, let me get in good position stuff, it'll actually be a huge time saver. So just submit to it being uncomfortable. Here's the first riff, which started at a minute and a half in, if you want to make a note of that. So yeah, or a minute 50 rather. So they're the only thing that could potentially go wrong is we got this big G in between them. The first couple of times you did it, went this side of it. So we're going play, dampen, play. So there we are. Stop, do that. Cool. And then just. So the biggest thing for you here is going to be to make sure that your left thumb moves. And I deliberately was learning that now writing and stuff. It seems like when you go from what seems more intuitive to left thumb moves too, you feel a little loosey-goosey. That's good. It just feels a little loosey-goosey and slides so flying around. Your thumb pretty much could have a piece of string around these 3 fingers the whole time, and that stuff's all your slide. It's all shoulder, elbow. Cool. So then the next riff goes. At this point you already know how to go. So let's just zero in on the. Then we have our first seesaw dampen, which isn't a technical thing. That's kind of what I refer to. And we have to go this string, put it back at this string, seesaw back and forth. But I've got to place the 10th fret versus. Cool. So we're going. So just do that. Just the bing boom. So do some of those back to dancing versus. Learning the dance steps, kind of take the approach of I'm learning the dance steps for the first 5 times you play it. Just don't try to play in rhythm if that requires the guessing at space. That's for I'm going to take this test and then forget it immediately for the rest of my life. Whereas I want to be in the I'm learning to speak this language and maintain whatever else is kind of my whole trip with practice habits is muscle memory, and we talked about during the lesson. How that is reflected in the nature of kind of how we go about practicing. Worst possible way, look at the page, play everything, top to bottom, with a bunch of pauses, hope you get better at it. Best possible way, breaks you into little sections, finish as you go, end of that talk. Cool, so you're doing that as I'm talking you through this video. This implies pause, do the thing. Awesome, so then we got the next one. So you're really sick to this with 2 riffs now, including the transition. So you're going. Don't worry about vibrato this time. Just kind of, if you find yourself doing this, yeah, and that's just the way that we get long tones on this instrument. If you watch me playing, anytime I come to any kind of, you long tone, then eventually you're gonna do that. But for now, let's just not even sweat it. Where if you're gonna do it, learn the whole thing first and then come back to it. When we do it, it's just this little tremor in our entire hands, and there are times where we're going, but really we're just going for sustain, and that's the only way we can make it sustain. Cool. So far then we did, we just went. So it's there's 2 dampens in there rather than this one too. So it's dampen. dampen, dampen. So it's a lot like the previous riff. And so that's at the end with those last two notes ringing out at the same time, or a note, and then. So I'd suggest you group the last two kind of together, but the first three are really similar, and then we just end up going. So that's, play, dampen, play. Awesome. So there's like big section one, get all kinds of sick at that before you try the other stuff, especially because the other stuff is a lot different than that. So I would rather you finished all of that, didn't try the turnaround, than got sorted out the whole thing. So yeah, 6 minutes in, the turnaround part, I'm going to go into less detail about why we dampen and stuff now. So we're in the position like middle strings, not highest, not first. Cool, and we go. We have to dampen that string. We go. And that's, the note. Cool, so section. You can just go and be working on the hard part, going just kind of like filler. You're gonna get that part down.
Don't need to spend too much time.
Right. So then we get up going, and so that's like the the whole chord thing where we talked about hitting the first and sixth string to see if you're in the right amount of tilt, and how like for some people it can feel like if you just push a little harder, there's like no perfect amount of tilt. Like where you don't like just push a little harder here, but you were also just like kind of getting it. So if you're doing a thing where it's just getting it, no big deal. Do it that, do that. Anyway, so we're hitting these three fingers and then our ring finger, and then thumb again. Cool. So so there's this whole thing, and so it was like from the last two riffs of I'll just do the whole thing once. There's what we're doing. Sections, finish as you go. Ouch my thumb, ouch my wrist. That's what we're after, no problem.